Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe that they deserve special treatment and that the world owes them everything. My friends, as always, the stories in this episode are super duper outrageous, so try not to shake your heads too hard. Subscribe if you haven't, and the email link is going to be in the description below. We're diving in. Okay, so I'm a 19-year-old female, and I come from a very wealthy family. Even so, I had a job since I turned 16, and my parents did buy me a car, but I have to pay for my own insurance and gas. When I graduated high school, I was accepted into a good college, and my parents gave me a choice. Choice number one is that I would live in the dorms and they would pay for everything. I just get a little bit of spending money and they won't have a say in my life at all since I'm an adult. Option number two is that I live in a 2-bedroom apartment that they own in the city. They pay for everything and I have more spending money. In exchange, I have to promise to keep a high GPA. No recreational drug use, no alcohol until I turn 21, and no roommates. I accepted that second choice, and it's been great. I'm also an introvert, so I do appreciate my space. Now, here's the problem. So a friend I made in the beginning of the semester wanted to move in, and I declined. She comes from a middle-class family, and she's paying for school using student loans. Just normal stuff. The first time she was over, she starts making some tasteless remarks, such as, "Oh, must be nice to never work a day in your life, hey?" Or, "Must be nice to have mommy and daddy wait on you hand and foot." She began making all sorts of comments like that, and when she wouldn't stop, I just started to distance myself from her. She's been having problems with her roommate from the get-go, but yesterday, she just couldn't take it anymore. She asked me in front of our friend group if she could move in with me, and I said no, she can't. So after I said that to her, she called me an entitled trust fund baby, who didn't know what the normal everyday struggles are, and then she stormed off. Now all my friends say that I'm a horrible person and that I'm an a-hole and that I have the space and it wouldn't cost me anything, so I should just let her move in, because we're friends. They say I could lie to my parents and they wouldn't know. I disagree, but I thought better to ask, because if they don't give it a rest, I'm planning to cut all of them off. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. What do you guys think? I personally think that OP's friend is the entitled one in this situation, for assuming that since OP is so well off that she owes it to her. And it also seems like her friends agree to that as well. Like, yeah, OP is in a much better position than her friends might be in, but at the end of the day, she's not the a-hole for declining someone moving in. Okay, so I've been a fireman for years, and I've seen way too many dumb people, but I thought I'd share one with you. So one day, we get called out to a motor vehicle accident. It was a rollover. When I arrived on scene, the driver was trapped, unconscious, and she was seriously hurt. We had to use the jaws to cut her out and then transported her to the hospital. A few weeks later, a woman walks into the station, demanding to speak to someone with authority, and that would be me. When I asked if I could help her, she told me that she'd been the driver of the vehicle, but she doesn't have car insurance, and now the car's garbage, and she still owes money on it. She then looks at me and says, "Well, who's gonna pay for it?" I told her that I was glad to see her walking around and I was more than happy she's okay. And then she says, "Don't give me that crap. Who's paying for my car?" She then looks at me and says, "Who told you? Who gave you permission to cut my damn car to pieces?" She then demands reimbursement. So with that, I said it was nice that she comes all this way to thank us and that I'd be happy to pass it on to the guys who risked their lives to save hers. And she says, "Don't screw with me. That was an expensive car, and now it's garbage." Now, I personally thought it was garbage after the first roll, when the roof was caved in. She then says, "I'll have you know that my sister's husband is the best lawyer in this town. Don't make me sue you." So I give her the address and phone number of City Hall, and luckily for me, the alarm goes off and I had to go cut someone's car apart so they could live, all without their permission. Now guys, I know this would have been such an unprofessional and inappropriate thing to say, but right then and there with her attitude, OP should have come up with this response. Next time, maybe you get yourself out of your car and take yourself to the hospital since nobody gave us permission to save your life. If she was driving without insurance, which is illegal by the way, she's gotta be ready to face the consequences. To offer a little context, I'm 22 years old. I'm female and a 2018 college grad working a pretty junior position in a university student finance department. The department's pretty small, about a dozen people including myself. My job is comprised of pretty menial tasks. Data entry, responding to emails, that sort of thing. Special enough to have my own desk, but only a small step above coffee order taking intern. And by God, the way this Karen treated me since I started the job in September, you'd think I was the unpaid intern. The woman is probably in her late 40s, early 50s, with the "may I speak to your manager" haircut. She was also super tall and skinny, with a face that says that there's a bad smell under her nose all the time. She constantly and condescendingly refers to me as love or sweetie, but I honestly think she doesn't know my name. Now, I'm always friendly to her, but she still treats me like, I don't know, someone's teenage daughter that's come for work experience or something. So Thursday last week, the Karen approaches me at the kitchen table, which is basically just a table at the back of the office where we have a mini fridge, kettle, microwave, etc. She puts her hand on my shoulder and fixes me with the tightest, fakest smile and says, "Hey sweetie, I just thought I'd let you know that you're out of hand cream." Now at this, I frown, completely confused. I don't keep hand cream on my desk, and even if I did, I don't recall ever giving her permission to use it. I then say to her, "I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean." Again with that smile, she says, "The cream you keep in your desk, the Chinese one." Now at this, my stomach drops. I know exactly what she's talking about. For my birthday in November, my friend who lives in Japan sent me a box of goodies, including this really nice, really expensive hand cream that you can only get in Japan. I had been keeping it in my desk, as the office is air-conditioned and my hands get quite dry while I work. That cream is a godsend. But since the end of January, the aircon's been out, so I haven't been using it. I've been wanting to save it for when the aircon gets fixed and I really need it. It's also in a really solid tube, so it's nearly impossible to tell that it's been used without picking it up to feel how much is left. So I say to her, the cream in my desk drawer, the pink one? Karen says, "Yeah, it's empty. You need to get some more." Now at this, I am horrified. The lady's been helping herself to my things out of my desk when I've been out of my seat. I truly don't know how to respond. So I say to her, "Why were you going through my desk?" She then straightens her back a little at this and says, "It's not locked, and it's not like anything in there's private. But that's where I keep my personal belongings. It's like if I went looking through your handbag without permission." She then says to me, "That's completely different. Can you please just get some more hand cream?" Now, I'd been so distracted by the thought of her going through my desk that I'd totally forgotten the main point and said to her, "No, it's from Japan. It's really expensive. I can try to find it online and give you the link to order it, but I'm not getting more so you can use it." Karen then says to me, "Listen, if you're gonna replace it anyway, we might as well share it. Seriously, you didn't notice I was using it until I told you." Now, I'm baffled at what she just said. I knew this woman had a superiority complex, but this is unreasonable. She wants me to replace it so she can keep using it. The absolute audacity of this woman. I then tell her, I said no. I've got every mind to ask you to reimburse me. I've barely used it and now it's empty. You used nearly the whole bottle. At this she says, "But you weren't using it." That's not the point. For the first time in conversation, I raised my voice. I was getting the attention of some of my colleagues, and I said to her, "It wasn't yours to use, especially not without permission. I won't ask you to reimburse me because I can already tell you'll say no, so I'll replace it myself, but you need to keep out of my desk. Did you not learn that in preschool?" At this, she bristles and quickly notices that people are staring. Karen's not too well liked in the office anyway, so I can see the cogs begin to turn as she works out how she can turn this onto me. She then says, "Sweetie, that cream has changed my life." Now she says this in such a fake gentle voice. "It's healed my eczema, and it might come back if I don't keep using it." Okay, good for you, so go order some for yourself. Just stay out of my things. Now, before she could respond, I just walked away with my now lukewarm coffee. I ordered new hand cream that night and considered sending her a PayPal invoice for it, but I thought as the first one was a gift, it wasn't technically out of pocket, so I just felt sorry that my friend's present had gone to waste. So fast forward 8 days, to yesterday. Karen turns from the mini fridge with a death glare and she announces to the whole office, "Somebody's eaten my yogurt." No response. Everybody kind of glosses over her BS at this point, and she fake clears her throat and says, "Ahem, somebody has eaten my probiotic yogurt." And then a voice, my hero, a guy in the office who we'll call Dave. Now Dave is a 6'4", average build with a huge dark beard and glasses, kind of like a bear. He's stoic, he's quiet, he keeps to himself, and all of a sudden, he says, "Well, you weren't eating it." Now, you can see Karen's face twist into the tightest glare that I've ever seen, and she says, "Excuse me? At this, Dave says, "You didn't even notice it was gone, so it must have been okay for someone else to take it, since you weren't eating it." Now, there's a few small snorts of laughter at this point, and I'm holding my breath to keep myself from bursting into hysterics. Karen says, "What kind of backwards logic is?" He then interrupts her, speaks in a crude imitation of a woman's voice, fake sincere, and says, "Sweetie, that probiotic yogurt changed my life. It healed my eczema." At this, the whole office begins to laugh. Karen's face goes bright red, and her mouth starts twitching at the corners like she wants to either cry or yell, but she doesn't have a foot to stand on. She went out for lunch and she didn't come back. We heard later that day that she'd called out sick. When I got home that evening, I found an email letting me know that she'd PayPal'd me some money for the hand cream, without a message. It only covered the cost of the actual cream and not shipping, but I was grateful. I was just an intern in her eyes, so I could have never convinced her to pay me, but to have her equal colleagues on my side shame her like that was more than enough. I'm so grateful to them. They can use my hand cream anytime they'd like. Guys, Dave is a friggin' legend, and I'm so glad he gave that entitled woman a taste of her own medicine, which she clearly didn't like. So, some short background. This happened like 3 years ago. The story happened on a train ride from my hometown, where my family lives, to the city where I currently live and work, halfway across the country, roughly 350 kilometers or 220 miles. It was a Sunday evening, since I was visiting my family over the weekend. The trip had a rather bad connection. I had to switch trains 3 times every trip, and the total trip took about 5 hours in total. My foot was injured and hurt, which is important for later, and I was also training at work, therefore I didn't earn that much money. Also important for later. Now to the details. Winter was just beginning, and as you'd expect, the National Train Company was taken by surprise, as always. So many trains were late or they were completely cancelled. I started my trip at 6 p.m. to theoretically arrive at roughly 11 p.m. at my desired arrival station. Since it was winter, my first train was 10 minutes late, causing me to rush painfully to my next train to make the connecting one. As luck would have it, the connecting train either left already or never even came, so I had to wait an hour for the next one. This one also arrived at the next stop with a delay of 45 minutes, so I arrived there around 9:45 p.m. The last train to my destination left roughly at 8:30 p.m. for that day. Great. Since it was a very big train station in the city, the train company was forced to give me compensation for their failure to transport me. So I head to the information counter, where the story unfolds. So I come up to the desk and tell the lady my story and my demands per their company's policy. They were to pay me for the night in their contracted hotel near the train station, and they were to change my ticket so I could get to my destination without having to purchase a new ticket. Pretty standard. While I was speaking with her, a dad and his 2 kids come from behind. Even though there's clear signs and posters all around the info desk to tell people to exercise discretion, keeping social distance, and wait behind an indicated line, the dad comes marching up right beside me, and he stands right next to me, demanding to speak to the person helping me now. Now, I figured I'd stay quiet, as it's a bad matchup against him with my foot, if I confronted him. But then, he starts to slowly shuffle closer and closer towards me and start to push me out of his way with his body weight. At that point, I had enough, and I pushed him away and the following discussion ensued. I said, "Dude, what's wrong with you? Can't you read? The sign clearly states that you should stay back there, and pushing me away while I'm talking is such an a-hole move." At this, the dad screams at me and says, "Hey, I have 2 small kids. They're tired, and we need to get to a hotel room soon. You're young and by yourself. You can wait." At this, I say to him, "No, I have the exact same right to that hotel room as you, and I was here first, so you need to get back in line and learn to behave like a normal adult." The attendant then says, "Sir, please step behind the line and stop bothering this passenger. We weren't finished yet." At this, the dad becomes livid, and he ends up kicking my injured leg away, causing me to fall hard on the granite floor, and now completely twisting my injured foot. Immediately, security rushes over, as they were standing there watching everything, and dad gets grabbed and pinned to the ground. The kids are crying at this point, as they're scared, and 2 agents try to console them and call the police. The other passengers helped me, as I was in severe pain, and they called an ambulance. The police then come and took statements and identification from everybody, and they let everyone go. Then the whole after story hits him full force. I had to stay the night and the next full day and night in the hospital for checks, and then I was let go on crutches. My ankle was badly sprained. Since I couldn't walk well enough and was in too much pain to take the train, I had to call a taxi service to drive me the rest of the way, 200 kilometers or 125 miles, to my own place. My parents quickly sent me the money for it via PayPal after they heard the story and my plans. I ended up being off work for about a month, as my job required me to be on my feet all day. My parents also decided at that time to get a lawyer and to sue the guy in civil court. In the end, the judge granted me a full damage pay of roughly 400 euros for the pain, and another half of my monthly pay for financial loss. And of course, the dad had to pay his and my lawyer costs and the court costs, as it's pretty standard. The dad felt this was unfair and he appealed. Well, let's just say the next judge upped the damage pay by roughly 100 euros because the dad behaved like a dickhead. So to sum it up, he most likely lost 4 lawsuits. 2 against me, 1 against my health insurance, and 1 against my employer. So in the end, the dad had to pay 500 euros damage pay, roughly half my salary for financial loss, which is another 500 euros, my taxi bill for the ride home, which is 850 euros, my lawyer costs and court costs, which is 3,000 euros, and he also had to pay for his own lawyer, all my hospital bills, and all the lawyer and court costs for those lawsuits. So yeah, I alone got roughly 5,000 euros from him, plus all the rest that his insurance had to pay. This is exactly why you don't cut in line, guys, and if you do, don't assault the person, because the dad learned a super expensive lesson that I'm sure he'll never ever forget. This story happened earlier today. I had dropped my daughter off at an event and had about 90 minutes to kill, so I decided to head downtown to pick up a few geocaches that had been taunting me. So after my second cache hunt, I parked across the street from a little bodega to see where I should try my luck next. As I'm going through the nearby geocaches on my phone, I notice a homeless man begging for money from passers-by outside the bodega. I likely found a cache, then decided to buy a bottle of water at the bodega. So a side note, I drive a 2010 Chrysler 300C. I inherited the car from my mom when she passed away in December of 2017. It's not the type of car that I would buy for myself, but it runs well and I've never had complaints about it, so I drive it. I left my car and crossed the street, and sure enough, the guy asked me for some money, for some food. I was feeling generous and it was a nice day, so I reached into my wallet and handed him a $5 bill. Now, given the neighborhood, the odds were good that he'd use it for drugs, but whatever. So I go inside, bought my water, and I left. As I walk out, the man stopped me and said, "Hey brother, you have anything else for me?" I then say to him, "Excuse me?" He says, "I mean, you must have a lot of money, right? Driving that big car of yours?" I then say to him, "Didn't I just give you $5? He says, "Yeah, man, but that's chump change. I'll bet you've got plenty more on you right now." Now I casually take a step back and say, "So you'd rather have something other than the $5 I gave you?" At this, he lights up and says, "Yeah, how about it?" At this, I smile and say, "Sure thing." I then pull out my wallet and say, "Where's that 5 I gave you?" The man hands me back the $5 bill. I take the bill and say, "I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry." I then put the $5 bill back in my wallet and say to him, "Have a nice day." And with that, I turned and went back to my car. I was about halfway across the street when the guy starts yelling at me. At this, I turned and waved, more to make sure he wasn't chasing after me than to goad him on. But he stood there yelling racist comments at me. By the time I got in my car and pulled away, he was standing on the street cursing me out and giving me the finger. I just waved and left. Like, honestly, it might have been best that OP took back his $5 rather than to contribute to a drug habit. Guys, I'll never forget one time I was harassed in a parking lot by a homeless guy asking for money. So the guy comes up to me and he asks me if I had some spare change. And I say to him, "I only have cards on me." And he says to me, "Well, what the hell am I supposed to do with your cards, you idiot?" So yeah, the guy ruined it for everybody. Now I don't give out money. I will, however, buy you a chocolate bar or a coffee if you want. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our slash entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. A super entitled Karen stalks OP to try to get her fired. It's such a ridiculous story, so check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.